Howdy, this is Pete, just dodging some sunbrellas on Mott Street on the way to the Chinese market. Today I'm going to show you a few super common Chinese dishes that are really easy to put together and adaptable based on ingredient availability and your own personal taste as well. Besides being great on their own, when put together they make a nice, well-rounded meal for two. There are 3 recipes to cover, so let's get it started. The first dish I'm going to show you guys today is ban mian, which means mixed noodles in Chinese. It doesn't refer to the peanut butter sauce at all, it's just kind of one style. It more refers to what you're going to see now, which is me mixing the noodles like that. And this sauce is really easy to put together. It's very adaptable to your palate. You can substitute ingredients if you want. You can use spaghetti or whatever, and it always comes out great. So the main ingredients that I use are light soy sauce, oyster sauce, peanut butter, sugar or honey in this case, and scallions. And you can see me going to the fridge because I actually ran out of light soy sauce making another dish, so I had to use dark soy sauce, and it ended up tasting fine. And by fine, I mean literally the greatest dish ever created by man on the face of the planet, literally ever. For the noodle sauce assembly, the first thing I'm going to start with is cutting the whites of the scallion, and then the middle kind of light green part, and that'll go in the sauce. And then finally I'm just going to cut up the tops and add that as a garnish at the end. I'm also going to garnish another dish with that. First I'm going to put in about a half a cup of peanut butter, followed by a tablespoon of oyster sauce, and feel free to go a bit heavier on this. I kind of wish I did this time because the dark soy sauce doesn't have as much flavor as the light soy sauce, but the dark soy sauce I did about another tablespoon of that, and then finally about a tablespoon of honey. And then after that I'm going to start mixing this up. It's going to look pretty gnarly and you're going to be like, how is this going to be good? It just looks terrible when kind of clumpy and gross, but we're going to thin it out with the pasta water, and it's going to make it really good texture to cling to the noodles afterwards. The noodles we're using are just some kind of generic Chinese brand fresh noodles that I'm going to throw into the water, shake it out, move it around a little bit with the chopsticks to make sure it doesn't stick. And you can use literally any noodle you want, Italian spaghetti, whatever, it doesn't matter. So just bring that to a boil. And it should take about maybe a minute or two, something like that, because they're fresh. And towards the end of the boiling, just extract about half a cup of the boiling liquid that we're going to mix with the sauce, which is the main event. So I'm going to throw the pasta water onto the peanut butter mixture and start mixing it up. You're going to see the color is going to start to change and the texture is going to smooth out. It's going to look really nice. So after that, throw the noodles on top of the sauce and start banning that mian, giving the noodle its namesake by really getting in there and mixing it up very thoroughly. And you can kind of lift it. I mean, you don't have to use chopsticks, but it does add a little authentic flavor to the whole situation. So as I was mixing those noodles, I was deep in thought and realized that I like to add another ingredient to this, which is Chinkiang or Zhenjiang style vinegar, which is like a sweet aromatic vinegar that gives it like a really nice balance of flavors. So I added that, probably about 1 tablespoon, and then I just continued mixing. It probably took like between 1 and 2 minutes total. And then finally, from the scallions that I cut earlier, I'm just going to garnish that on top. And there you go, bing, bang, boom. That's peanut butter noodles. The next dish up is 3 cups chicken, which is a pretty famous Chinese home-style dish that consists of a braising liquid of rice wine vinegar, soy sauce, and sesame oil, along with some dry spices, ginger, and garlic. The dry spices I use are dried red chilies, star anise, Sichuan peppercorn, and cinnamon. In place of that, you could just use Chinese 5-spice powder, or you could just leave it out. It's very adaptable based on kind of what you want to put into it and what you have. So first in goes the soy sauce. I'm using about a half a cup here, and then in a 1-to-1 ratio, I'm going to add another half a cup of rice wine vinegar. And I totally purposefully did not add the sesame oil and I'm gonna add it to the pan later, but that's definitely not because I forgot. And then finally, just a little bit of water to thin it out. So before you start cooking the chicken, you should have by your side the braising liquid and then the dry spices and ginger and garlic. The ginger and garlic I just left whole and smacked a bit to get the juices flowing, but there's really no point in cutting them up or mincing them or whatever. So to start this off, we're gonna get a pan nice and hot and put a bit of oil in. You don't really need that much, just enough to coat the bottom of the pan. Then I'm gonna place the chicken in. If I had skin on this chicken, I would put it in skin side down, but it doesn't have skin. And these are full chicken quarters, or just the entire leg, drumstick, and thigh that have been deboned that I got from the market. You definitely want to use dark meat for this because chicken breasts just will not stand up to the braise and it'll dry out. And the other thing I just want to mention is that the pan you use doesn't matter that much as long as it is not cast iron, because the sauce has so much vinegar in it that it'll strip the seasoning off of your cast iron. Then I'm just gonna season the top of both pieces of chicken. I'm not gonna go crazy on the seasoning. One side is fine because it's gonna be simmering in soy sauce. And then after maybe about 2 or 3 minutes, once it starts to get golden like that, I'm gonna flip them. And yeah, I use chopsticks instead of tongs. I just find them way more maneuverable and just easier to flip stuff and move stuff around in the pan. And they make you feel badass. So after those are cooked on the other side, I'm gonna give them a little check there. They look great. So I'm gonna pull those out. And once the chicken is out of the pan, I'm gonna toss in the dry spices, ginger, and garlic. And I'm just gonna toss them around a little bit in the hot pan. I didn't really go crazy toasting them this time. Not super necessary. After that, the braising liquid goes in. And it's gonna be very dramatic here and bubble up and go crazy. And as I was bringing this to a boil, I realized that I forgot one of the main ingredients in 3 cups chicken, the third cup, which is sesame oil. And it's not actually a cup, that would be crazy. Just use about maybe a tablespoon or 2. Then after I did that, I threw the chicken back in the pan, made sure everyone was nice and cozy and ready to go. And then once that's done, you want to put the cover on this and then let it simmer for about 20 to 25 minutes to start, and then after that you want to check it maybe once every 5 minutes to see if it's done. So what you're seeing here is after about 25 minutes, and if you were using bone-in chicken, it would probably take 35 to 40 minutes, but in this case, relatively quickly, it was starting to break apart and become super tender. You can kind of see the texture there. Yeah, it just falls apart when you move it around. So this is at a good spot right now. I'm gonna leave this uncovered and simmer for another couple of minutes, and then after that I'm gonna start taking it out. And once the chicken is out, I'm gonna bring it back up to a boil and reduce it for about 5 minutes. And then once it's reduced to the consistency you want, I don't do it super thick. You can see the consistency there. It's still, pretty thin and kind of soupy. So I strain it, I cut up the chicken into bite-sized pieces so you can eat it with chopsticks, and then to serve, I just pour the sauce over the chicken. You want to provide a good amount of sauce because this dish it can't be eaten without rice. It's made for rice, so you want the sauce to be there to kind of drizzle over the rice and soak up everything. And then finally, I'm just gonna garnish it with a little bit of scallions to make it look nice. And that's it. That's like one of the easiest home-style Chinese dishes you could possibly make, and it tastes so good. Alright, so the final dish we have today is pai huanggua, which means smacked cucumbers. And this is my girlfriend's favorite dish, so I'm legally obligated to make it. But the ingredients are super simple. It's just chili oil, soy sauce, vinegar, sesame oil, honey, and then just a bit of minced garlic. And once you make the sauce, the rest is super easy. So I just want to talk about these ingredients a little bit more. The first thing I'm going to be using is hot oil. You can use what I use, which is lao gan ma, or you can use literally any other kind you want, or you can make your own. They're very easy to make. Also some soy sauce, pretty basic. And then I'm adding some Chinkiang style vinegar. I guess you can sub in rice vinegar or whatever, but this has a very unique flavor and I really suggest that you pick it up if you can. Then I'm going to add a little bit of sesame oil for aroma, just a bit of honey to contrast because you got a lot of spicy and salty and sour in there, so just to kind of help balance things out. And then I only like to put 1 garlic clove, but you could put up to 4 or 5 if you wanted to go crazy with the garlic. And I'm using those mini cucumbers you find in the supermarket, and first I'm just going to cut off the ends, and then I'm going to show you the smashing technique. So you want to hold your knife perpendicular to the cucumber and just firmly press down on it. You don't actually have to smack the knife. I think that's kind of dangerous. Just lean on it with your full body weight and push down. And then once the skin pops and there's like a couple seeds and juice popping out, then you just cut them into bite-sized pieces. So I'm going to repeat that process with enough cucumbers to fill up my bowl there. And then the final step is going to be to add salt, the purpose of which is to draw moisture out of the cucumber. They'll soften up slightly, and they'll also be able to absorb the sauce a bit more. So I'm just going to massage the salt in for a bit and let them sit for about 15 minutes. After the 15 minutes is up, I'm going to give them a quick rinse. Feel free to simplify your life by doing this in a colander, but my metal colander is like by far the biggest pain in the ass to clean out of anything in my kitchen, so I didn't really want to get it involved. So I just kept them in the bowl. I rinsed them off with a little bit of cold water, drained them, and then once that's done, I'm just gonna throw the sauce on there and then toss it around a bit, and that's it. That's the basic steps to make this dish. So this is the final meal all put together. In the end, it makes a really well-rounded meal for 2, and it's very simple to put together. Overall, it was easier than it apparently was for me to serve myself a serving of noodles in this final shot. But yeah, I'm going to try to get these videos out more frequently now that I know how to edit video. So if you have any suggestions for a recipe, please let me know, and I'll try to make it for you.